Could you tell us a bit about any scenes, songs, characters in particular that you have ideas for how they'd look in a stage or film production of the musical? Which scene would you be most excited to see in a more visual format if there was ever a stage or film adaptation? Great questions! Let's break this down into different mediums: a stage adaptation, a live-action film, and an animated film. For a stage adaptation of Epic, I'm super inspired by the amazing technology we see in shows like Cirque du Soleil's Ka and O. If you have not seen either of those, I 100% recommend because they've got amazing technology that just redefines what we can do in a theater. The same way the musical language of Epic gets more electronic when the story has more magical elements, what if the elements of a stage production behaved the same way, with practical effects getting more technologically advanced with the more magical parts of the story? For example, in the beginning of the show, during the Siege of Troy, let's have a massive wooden horse and let's set things on fire. But later on in the show, during the more magical elements like Athena's quick thought, let's experiment with 3D projection mapping, or holograms, or who knows what else. I really think Epic could be a show that incorporates technology in new and inventive ways. Now, one thing that is an absolute must for me is the breathtaking presentation of the creatures in Epic, namely Polyphemus, Scylla, Charybdis, and the Winions. For these, I like to imagine masterfully crafted robots, puppets, or animatronics like we might see at a ride at Universal or Disney. And I think finding a way to incorporate water somehow, like in the Cirque du Soleil show O, could be really exciting. Charybdis, for example, I love to imagine this massive animatronic whirlpool monster on water as Odysseus is sailing around it on a raft that could be attached to a rail system. And when I see shows like Cirque du Soleil's Ka, it really gives me the hope that a production like this could be possible. In terms of a live-action movie, I think we follow a similar idea where we use practical effects as much as we can, especially because I think monsters always look better with practical effects, and my favorite horror movie is The Thing, but then incorporate more visual effects when we get to the magical aspects of the show. Like when Poseidon uses his ultimate move, Shatter the Ocean, in which he controls this massive waterized version of himself right behind him, and then he strikes the ocean and it breaks into 1,000 pieces looking like glass. I think that would look so badass in a live action film. But at the moment of making this, I think that the medium that most excites me right now is an animated film. One of the reasons being that Epic is so heavily inspired by video games and animation, including anime. And I could see several styles that I really feel like would fit Epic. For example, I really enjoyed the visual style from Arcane on Netflix. Or I could totally see Epic in an anime style like we might see from early Attack on Titan episodes or Chainsaw Man. Another reason why animation really excites me for Epic is because I like to imagine that Epic is very aesthetically pleasing, and that each saga has its own color scheme. I like to imagine that the island of the Lotus Eaters has sections that are glowing, and that the lotus itself glows with a very pretty color. At the same time, I love to imagine Polyphemus' cave being very dark and terrifying. And also, there are several fight scenes in Epic that I think totally make sense animated. But sometimes I get more excited by a live action film too. What kinds of productions and mediums could you see Epic in? Let me know in the comments.